Welcome everyone to a very unique public sector update. We would traditionally provide a technical update, but at this point, we wanted to focus on some of the hot topics that will impact the public sector NPO. And so rather than getting into the conceptual framework and all these sort of public sector accounting things, we wanted to talk about artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact our work world. We wanted to do something different this year. This is probably going to be one of the most major technological disruptions, worldwide. It really started to take place late last year, and it will impact the way we work in 2023. So we're already calling it the year of disruption. I know it's only January and you're probably sick of hearing about AI. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this and sort of discuss why now. Like, why is this different than any other year? We've obviously heard about artificial intelligence models. It's been out there, it's been employed, like even at work. At Welch, we employ an AI model that really focuses on numbers. But in late 2022, we encountered some breakthroughs, and these companies started to release this. It's what I want to outline is artificial intelligence isn't just a search engine retrieving responses from the web. These are actually technologies that are trained to provide new or novel responses to your questions based on the information it has been trained on. And these AIs have been trained on not just the information on the internet, but lots of academic-based databases, technical databases, legal databases. So it has a lot of knowledge that's not even readily available on the internet, but it's been trained on these. And these breakthroughs were really made possible through our expanding computing power. So it used to sort of be the notion that, okay, we can put a box around a certain AI and it'll be good at this thing, and we'll train it a specific way, and it's going to have kind of a singular function or just a limited scope. And so what happened with the company OpenAI is it was a joint venture among many sort of tech bigwigs that had access to a lot of capital, and they made big bets. And they learned early on they would have to make big bets to really make something a general AI, and what they call it is a large language model, is to train it on everything. And so that's what we're seeing now. That's kind of all the buzz in the news, and that's what we want to talk about. So large language models, just a type of AI, but it's really, I want to just talk a little bit about how it works. It's what it's trying to do is trying to predict, based on a likelihood model, what the best answer to the question might be. So when you prompt it based on the words you choose, it'll try to guess. And again, it's very good at this game. And the writing quality, I think, is one of the main things that is often startling. The writing quality is really good. Doesn't seem like a robot generated it. So that's often what you can refer to as the Turing test, whether you can trick someone into thinking a human wrote it. And I think this would pass that test most of the time. It can maintain a conversation with you. It can write a technical memo. It can draft an email. It can write a poem. It can do a variety of things. We're going to cover some demonstrations in this presentation just to show the power of this tool. So I think it's important to be skeptical of the technology. As some people say, it's still a dumb robot, but also be skeptical of the critics. So, on the one hand, this technology can produce very well-written answers that might be completely wrong. Another sort of limitation or area to be skeptical is, and as accountants or finance people, large language models are not good at math. They're trying to predict the next word. It's ironic because a computer is not actually calculating, but that's not how they're designed. They're not designed to calculate or crunch numbers. So if you got deep into mathematics with it, you would find a lot of errors. But at the same time, this is a huge leap. And while it's very hyped, I just really want to say like the hype is warranted. And I say that because a lot of technology writers for Wired or the New York Times will be very critical of this. Sometimes they will only focus on what AI doesn't do well. They'll encounter really silly screenshots. They'll share screenshots or stories about, oh, I asked it this and look at what a silly response. Oh, what a dumb robot. But I just want to say, if you only kind of focus on that, you're going to be missing out because the power behind this technology is undeniable, and the hype is warranted. And again, going back to the Turing test, I'm sure this AI won't fool us all of the time in every example, but I think if you were to copy paste this, the responses to questions, and send the response to a friend who had that question, I doubt they'd be able to tell that you didn't write it. Like I think many times it would pass that Turing test, and so it's not perfect. It's in its infancy, but it's very good. This is really the tip of the iceberg. So this is a headline talking about it's passed an MBA exam. It's also passed many legal exams. In this presentation, we're going to focus on ChatGPT, which is created by OpenAI. And that's sort of the only publicly available one at the moment. We really want to highlight, again, what a jump this technology has taken. It's really like comparing using a calculator to the Excel spreadsheet. And so while we have templates and Word documents and tools and these little sort of helpful things, this is sort of a game changer. And like all new technologies, it will redefine how we do our jobs, what we focus on. And hopefully after these demonstrations, you'll see the potential of time saving, especially when we leverage them to business communications. And so most of the presentation and the demonstrations, we're going to try to focus on sort of the public sector setting or NPO setting, but really, I mean, this is just business communications in general, business tasks in general it can assist with. And I think part of the reason why it lends itself to assisting the business world is because most of our communications are standardized. They're templated. In fact, the highest risk communications are often based on a template. So because of that structure around how we produce different types of business documents, the AI is very good at these exercises. So the first example we'll do is drafting policy. So, you can be part of a small NPO, you can be part of a large public sector organization, and you can do all sorts of different kinds of policy. And, when you think about how policy documents are made, it's about best practices, it's about jurisdictional comparisons, there's certain structure to it, there's certain analysis to it. So, AI has sort of in its database deep knowledge of those types of documents. And what this demonstration is going to show is that AI has really learned about governance, about policy, and it can reach into and kind of create for you a starting point of any type of policy document, really, or any type of best practice document. And you can just ask it, even with a first draft, or before you get to the first draft, you can even just ask it, what types of things should you have in a policy document if you don't know where to start, if you're just trying to generate something yourself. And I think you'll see in the demonstration, it's not going to come up with new ideas for you. Potentially it might if you're not aware of it, but if you're really trying to come up with some creative or novel solution that's never been done before, it's not going to do that for you. But where you are trying to leverage what's out there, research what's out there, it's going to do that for you quite easily, and it's still going to leave lots of room for yourself to be creative as well. So this next demonstration shows note disclosures, how to draft note disclosures. But as you're watching it, I want you to think, why stop at note disclosures? What about annual reports? What about financial statement discussion and analysis? What about summarizing your financial results for the website or for the general public? Any kind of communication that's financial in nature is fair game. Again, it won't necessarily do the numbers part of it correctly, but the communication around it, if it's out there, the AI will be able to generate a great draft for you. So you're probably hearing a lot of noise about how GPT is going to replace Google. And so summarizing technical information, AI is very good at. So I encourage you to ask GPT to explain things to you in plain language during the course of your work, summarize things for you that are technical, and even if on a personal note, like if you need to explain something to your 5-year-old son or daughter, that's scientific or complicated, ask it specifically, to explain it in a way that a 5-year-old could understand. And I think what you'll find is kind of going through that hierarchy of technical and then simplifying it to more understandable and simplifying it further. This AI is very good at. And that, again, it's a function of being a large language model. One of the things as you're watching this demo, and this is my observation, is that the issue really is there's no source or reference for the answer. So, and perhaps that's something they're going to integrate into the future versions of the tool. I know that's not sort of me alone, but if I'm going to leverage it for any kind of research, I want to know what it's sourcing and whether that source is reliable. But at the end of the day, it's very good at summary. So even if you were to put in your own accurate information and ask it to summarize it, you can always save time on that step. The creating content demonstration, I think you'll see, like, it really illustrates how the world of content creation will be disrupted this year. I cannot imagine marketing and ad companies who are charged with the responsibility of creating content for their clients are not constantly talking about this now. With so many different platforms where companies need to publish content to be seen, to be heard, to be relevant, to be noticed, like the people behind those content campaigns suddenly have this amazing tool to assist them. And you don't have to use GPT to create the content. You can even just ask it ideas to give you ideas about what kinds of content you could create or what's a way to promote something. And even, as a starting point, if you really don't know where to start. And I think public sector really is in the same boat when it provides certain services, especially when new programs are rolled out, creating awareness of the new program. It could also leverage this, and launch programs, make sure they get sufficient take up. It's not necessarily part of accounting and finance, but I think for smaller organizations on a tight budget, this could be a huge time saver. You can't always procure a marketing firm to do campaigns for you. So, maybe you can leverage this yourself. So this demonstration is on situational emails. It's probably the most fun. We tried to limit it, but you could sort of go on and on. But as you watch it, just again, our imagination is probably the limit here. So we obviously demonstrate professional communications or types of communications, but imagine being able to use this function all the time. Like once your phone, your Siri or Google integrates this into their phones, like, are you going to need to type emails on your phone anymore? Or are you just going to tell it to do something? The level of automation now is amazing. I mean, think about birthday, happy birthday. It used to be you phoned somebody and you remembered birthdays or you wrote them down in a calendar. Then that was just a handful of people you cared about. Now, your calendar is going to remember hundreds of birthdays or pick them up off your different social networks. And then you can, choose to message them or not. But at this point, do we really need to do anything anymore? I mean, it's almost all automated. Obviously, it decreases the meaning of those conversations or those messages as well. But that's remarkable. Like, I mean, you could just tell the technology to write your wife or husband a heartwarming text on Valentine's Day this year, or write our daughter a message telling her how proud of where we are on her first day at university. And so, not only will you not forget, but there's actually a chance now the AI might actually write something that counts or is better than what you would have thought of. So it's really gone a long way to automating communications and just generating them. It's gotten good at that. So editing and reviewing, as you watch this demonstration, I think, I would say I didn't go far enough with the edits. We didn't want to spend too much time, but you could play around with this yourself. But well, when it gives us grammar or spelling feedback, we could even go further and have a conversation with it and ask it specifically to outline, in this paragraph, what specifically do I need to correct? What is wrong? And you can learn from it. It just depends what you're trying to get out of it. I also think, as you watch this, could technologies like this AI be the great equalizer for people who are, where maybe English is not their strong suit, or it's not their first language? There's countless examples where communication skills, prevent someone from getting a role or a promotion. But like, imagine if people had this as their sort of personal coach and assistant, and it could help them improve the quality of their assignments, the quality of their applications, et cetera. So I think it'd be extremely powerful in this capacity. So the last one here is analyzing technical language. So it's interesting because we recorded the demo for legal agreements. There's now reports that the legal industry will be one of the most disrupted by this technology, this similar to the communications industry. So it makes sense because these large language models can really master a technical language. So I don't see why I wouldn't be able to master handbook language when it comes to accounting. So there's really not a lot of room to be creative from legal agreement to legal agreement. In fact, when you're negotiating, like, it's a risk to be very sort of creative with a clause or to come up with new language. Like, even while there's options, you're really trying to standardize even the options that are available and how you word it, because you kind of know what that means, how it would be interpreted in a court of law, et cetera. So because there's such a defined way of using language in law, this sort of large language model, GPT, or any other similar model is going to be quite a powerful tool for the legal profession. And so the overall accountability and accuracy of the contract will always rest on the lawyers. Like that's not going to change. But the drafting language, modifying language, proofreading agreements, asking it if you missed anything, and what we do as accountants and finance people, we analyze agreements. This AI tool is exceptional at that. So finally, we'll talk about costs and limits of the technology. So it's really important to understand how these large language models work. It's trying to predict the right answer based on your prompt, and it's always going to be limited to the data it has available. And so in many cases, there's no absolute truth, so it can be wrong. And so it's never going to replace sort of the final review. AI is still dumb. It's not thinking about what you asked. It's a probability model that predicts the best answer based on its training. And so, I don't think we have to worry about it taking over all our jobs and just sort of firing all of us or anything like that. But again, viewed as a tool, as a time saver, as a quality control tool, it's extremely powerful. Again, doesn't do math well. It's best to leverage for writing and communication tasks, but that doesn't have to be limited to simple writing. It can do technical and analyze technical writing very well. Now, early pricing models, we're hearing for GPT would be around $20 to $40. It's not fully rolled out, but what is happening is GPT is the license to it is exclusively controlled by Microsoft. So Microsoft is integrating it into its Office suite. So I think if just recently they had announced that Microsoft Teams for an additional cost will now automatically transcribe minutes for you and really summarize every minute. So that requires listening to audio of people talking and understanding what the different voices are and who they are, and then transcribing it accurately, and then even summarizing it for you so you have minutes for a meeting. That is quite honestly amazing, because nobody ever wants to be the one to take the minutes. Again, it's early, so we have to kind of watch over it and not completely be reliant on it, but there's no reason why you wouldn't leverage this technology. And I think slowly we'll see this year that Microsoft is going to begin to roll it out into Word documents, into PowerPoint, etc., and really just scale up the pricing for Microsoft Office 365, Azure, and kind of get you into a higher price package that, so essentially your organization can just leverage GPT wherever it's practical to do so. Now, they say that Google actually has the best AI technology, but it hasn't launched it yet. And so I think we should expect Google, among other companies, to release their AI technologies this year. GPT, the release of GPT, and maybe most importantly, the hype that GPT has received has now pressured sort of everybody to release earlier than they may have wanted to, because, you know, they're concerned about the market share and whether they can capture it. But so it's only going to get better for us. And we just have to remember this is really like the infancy of AI becoming mainstream. In 5 years. You know, a lot of the things that it doesn't do well, it will get better at. So it's really a new day. So what's next? I think Marshall McLuhan used to say, you know, as these new technologies are introduced, like humans are just going to be fixated on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And it's quite on point today. That's essentially, you know, going back to my first point on what the media coverage around it is it's always about, is this good or bad? Is it replacing humans? Should humans always do these things? Yes, these are valid concerns. There will be legal issues involved. There will be privacy concerns. But at the same time, you know, we just can't ignore the jump that's been made. And really what we've seen over the last 20 years is once the technology is introduced, nothing can really stop it from being adopted. It sort of just works its way into our everyday lives one way or the other. But the ethical dilemmas and just the philosophical questions around it are quite profound. You know, an example again in the public sector, you know, can this technology draft an RFP document for you? Yes, it can. Okay, well, on the other side, if you're responding to an RFP, can it draft an RFP response for you? Yes, it can. Okay, then going back to the first side, can it read that RFP response for you and summarize and do a scorecard for you? Yes, it can. So it's kind of, so what are we actually going to have employees and sort of humans do versus what are we going to have this AI do, and how are we going to distinguish our response from others, and how are we going to make a selection? And, you know, you can do the same thing with cover letters and job applications. Again, both sides. So the one, the prospective applicant can use it to generate cover letters and job applications, but at the same time, the employer can use it to analyze cover letters and job applications. So, you know, where does the human element come in, and you know, where's the accountability reside? It's interesting because we of course have biases as humans, but AI will also have biases if it's only reaching back to model cover letters, or, you know, certain type, like what are the types of resumes that should get selected, etc. Then really we're just perpetuating the same biases that we trained into the databases. So bias is there regardless. But anyway, the main kind of more objective value that the AI provides is the time saved and the sort of automation of a lot of things, a lot of reading and writing. So as I mentioned earlier, you know, we can't really stop this technology, but something I wanted to discuss was also an ethical dilemma. So there's AI technologies now that can write songs, write musics for us, and they can make art for us. Like, so we did a little bit of a demo with generating an illustration. So there's actually a lawsuit by an artist, and she's claiming, if you go into this, it's not the one we demonstrated, but if you go into this visual AI and you say, make me a painting of a desk in the style of X or in the style of Y, you can pick any artist and it'll be able to do that. And so they're sort of saying, well, yeah, while that's not plagiarism in the sense that somebody's just copying my work, I didn't get permission for this AI to be trained on my work, to know what it means to be, to paint like me or to do illustrations like me, or, that's my unique style. And you could say the same thing for songwriters, but on the flip side, and I suppose this is I know this is common in the music world, is there's only so many chord progressions and riffs, and when we think to the artists that we love, did they not kind of copy and steal and borrow from the artists that they were influenced to create their songs? Like, are they truly sort of original? I've never sort of heard this song before. Probably not. The reason why AI is so good at it is because there's a pattern and it recognizes the pattern. Okay, well, here's where the verse goes. The chord progression is usually to a 4x4 signature, time signature, et cetera, et cetera. So, at the same time, one of the enlightening things is maybe the things that we thought were so special and so creative and so human are actually, the robots kind of do it with ease, because it is really, you know, uh, fairly basic pattern recognition for the robot. So anyway, I not to say there's a right or wrong. I think these are complicated issues, but I think, for us as business professionals, there's a lot of noise around this. But again, the tool itself is quite profound. So on that note, we hope you found this year's update useful and informative, and we'll see you again next year. Thank you.